let's get to Robert Wickens right now. How you doing, Robert?
Doing well, thank you. How about yourself?
Fantastic, my friend. What an inspiration you are. I put on my Corvette sweater today because I am a Corvette owner as well. Now, mine goes
Love it.
back a ways. I'm back in a silver anniversary, 1978, but I love your Corvette.
You and me both. I mean, I think that's the beauty about Corvette fans. I think once they're hooked, they're hooked for life. And after driving the Corvette Z06 GT3R, it's actually the first Corvette I've ever driven. So um, I get the hype. I get the hype for sure. I'm excited. It's been a fun journey so far, and coming up to my home race at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, it's probably going to be a whole new adventure for me.
Robert, that's got to be a racetrack. Of course, you are a Canadian, and I believe we have one other common thread, and that is you are originally from Guelph, Ontario, correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
I too. I grew up on Stevenson Street, moved up to Owen Sound with my family when we started out young, and as a Guelphite, I've always followed your career thinking, hey, look at that, another guy from Guelph did it.
It's awesome. I think, yeah, I'm super proud to be from Guelph, born and raised. Yeah, most of my friends are still there. My parents still live there. I try to get back as frequent as I can these days, but
Yeah.
you know what it's like with life, and babies and everything else, it gets a little hectic. But yeah, I mean, I always enjoy myself, and I have very fond memories of my childhood being from Guelph and spending holidays there, and yeah, the university, everything has just been such a great town.
What high school did you go to? John F. Ross, like me?
So I went to Bishop MacDonnell
Oh, yeah.
only for grade 9, and then I had to move to Toronto for grade 10. So
Yeah.
yeah, I went to St. Michael's in elementary school, and then Bishop MacDonnell for grade 9. While all my friends carried on there.
You gotta love it. You're coming home, really, to CTMP July 11th through the 13th weekend. It's going to be huge. We love having the WeatherTech series come in for their yearly visit. And Robert, you're going to make this year even more special. I wouldn't doubt you're going to be seeing a ton of 36 signs from the fandom as you go around that big, beautiful speedway. You must have a million laps on that track.
Actually, not as many laps as you would think. It's yes, it's my home track. I grew up racing go-karts on the go-kart track there, bouncing around from local kart tracks. But whenever we were karting there, I would always ride my bike over to the big track and go up to the outside of turn 2 and watch whatever it was, whether if it was Formula Ford's driving or some vintage thing, or on the off weekend that it was the American Le Mans Series there and the IMSA Series racing. I'd always come up and just watch as a fan, and then ride my bike back to the karting track before my next practice session, and then do my stuff. So it was, yeah, I mean, there's so much nostalgia whenever I go through the tunnel at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. It's such an amazing track, amazing venue. And because of that, we're trying something new this year. We're doing a bit of a Robert Wickens fan experience, something that I've never done before personally, but we're going to try to do kind of an opportunity that the normal fan wouldn't get. So that they're going to get a tour of DXTT racing.
Right.
And also from that, they'll get to see my Corvette Z06 GT3R with my Bosch hand control system. They can go up onto the grid, get a photo with me and the car on the grid. If we finish on the podium, we can all do a big Team Robert Wickens photo at the podium, which is a pretty cool opportunity. And then we have a sectioned off spot, you guessed this, on the outside of turn 2, where all of us can hopefully watch together and cheer on the DXTT Racing Corvette to some success. And then with the ticket, you also get a bit of a swag bag with some surprises in there too. So we're trying something new, trying to give back to the fans and try to give them an experience that they wouldn't have without it.
Robert, that is incredible. How does one get those tickets?
You can get those tickets at robertwickens.com or at robertwickensmerch.com.
Cool, cool. You can bet fans will line up. There's going to be limited capability there, right? You're not going to be able to have 2 million people show up.
Hey, if we get 2 million requests, I think we'll try and make it work. But there is limited ticket availability, and if it's a success this year, we're going to expand on it for 2026.
Robert, to say you have climbed the mountain and grabbed the flag is an understatement. You have got such an inspirational story. I know fans are aware of the wreck, the one that changed your life and changed the course. But you, my friend, are not I can't do that kind of guy. You are the can do, I'm going to do this. And everything I've watched online is just inspirational to all get out. It's just amazing. Take us through the journey to get to where you are today.
Oh man, how much time do we have? I mean, it's been a grind. There's been good days, there's been bad days, but I think the important thing is I've always been goal oriented my entire life, and especially in my athletic career. So once I had that setback of being told I was paralyzed, and from there it was just trying to figure out what do I have to do to get back to the quality of life that I want and back into a race car. So it was kind of a twofold scenario. First, I wanted to make sure that I had a good life for myself, which required a lot of rehab and physical therapy and everything along the way. Primarily just get the best quality of life I could. Once I kind of got that up and running, I never lost the will to drive. I knew I always wanted to again, and then kind of seamlessly switched my training over to start being an athlete again and getting ready to try to get back into a race car. And that happened in 2021 when Brian Herta gave me a call with his business partner, Sean Jones, and they offered me a test day at Mid-Ohio in a Hyundai TCR car. And then from there, we kind of just hit the ground running one step at a time. And we had success in the IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge Series, winning races, winning championships. And then the next progression step for me, the goal was always to get to the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship. And to be doing that this year on the limited schedule is just an amazing opportunity. I wouldn't be there without David Askew and DXDT Racing for having faith in me and seeing it not as a distraction, but as an opportunity to do something that hasn't been done before. And then coming into my home race here at CTMP, it's going to be awesome. Just being racing, on Sunday in front of the hometown crowd, it doesn't get any better than that. And hopefully I've had a lot of success at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park in the Hyundai Elantra. With 2 wins in a second in my 3 attempts. So hopefully we can keep that going and try to get a podium for the people.
You're gonna. I can almost guarantee it, Robert. Whatever you put your mind to, you tend to activate. And let's face it, it does all come down to that dreaded stopwatch and results. But you are driven and you're going to be able to do it. Watching some of the stuff online, I was struck by a couple of things, and I wanted to ask you, and now I get the opportunity to. When you are in that race car, Bosch has done a beautiful job in getting you the controls you need in your hands. We always hear from race car drivers, and we're, major league into short track racing.
Yep.
We definitely watch what you guys do. But the control, you always hear drivers say, oh, you can feel the track, you can feel everything in your ass. Is that the same way now, albeit you're controlling that race car with your hands? Do you still feel the track through your butt?
For sure. I mean, honestly, I'm driving the car completely different to what I had done before, but for the most part, you're still driving a race car around the track and pushing it to its limits. And, when I was recovering from my paralysis and I was still in hospital beds, people would tell me even if you drive again, it won't be the same because of the sensory difficulties that you have with paralysis. And I was always wondering what that would feel like. And then when I finally got that chance to drive the Hyundai TCR car in Mid-Ohio and get back into a race car for the first time, it was a wet, rainy, cold day. It definitely wasn't the perfect blue skies I had envisioned and daydreamed about for the countless hours in hospital beds. But it was almost better because already on my first lap out of the pits, because it was wet and slippery, I had kind of like an oversteer moment, and I caught the car like second nature, like nothing had changed. And then as I continued to push the limits and to find more pace from the car, it was like literally nothing changed. Obviously how I'm operating the car is very different, but the feeling and the sensation that you have with the car into the racetrack, like all of that was just like riding a bike, and it was put a huge smile on my face. And to know that, you know, this is still possible, because I wasn't sure how much I was going to have to relearn, right? Was I going to have to find new theories to what's understeer and what's oversteer, or was that all just going to be like how it was when I started karting when I was 7 years old? So, you know, it was that was definitely a happy moment. And then from there, I was just trying to make sure I could control the car with my hands.
Yeah, and hit the marks and pick up speed where you need to. When it comes time for driver change, and Tommy is your crewmate, your teammate, when it comes time, you get out of the car, he gets in. Does your steering wheel apparatus come off and he goes back to his, or how does that work with the Corvette?
So with the Corvette, and it was the same with the Hyundai Elantra, but the beauty of the system, especially with the integration with Bosch and my electronic braking system that I'm using now, it's just a simple press of a button, and it arms my hand control system and deactivates the foot controls.
Gotcha.
And then when I get out of the car, you just press the button again, and the foot throttle becomes active, and the foot brake becomes active. And then they drive the car like they normally would. So all of the furniture stays there all the time.
Gotcha.
So the steering wheel is the same steering wheel. We wanted that because it obviously becomes problematic and delays driver changes if you're having to change steering wheels and do everything else. In sports car racing now, the steering wheel stays on the car at all times. It's not really, you don't take it off for a driver change. You just kind of do the retractable steering wheel. You tilt it up so it gets up out of the way. You get out of the car, and then you tilt it back down and get it in position. So it was really important in the design process with Pratt Miller Engineering that that stayed a core value. You know, we're already up against the clock in driver changes, and last thing we wanted to do was to make our driver change more complicated with more steps, more than there needs to be. You know, obviously I don't have use of my legs, so if I'm getting in or out of the car, I need a helper to basically act as my legs and carry me in or carry me out of the car. So there's already a lot more moving parts and moving pieces to what the normal driver change would be for two able-bodied teammates. But with that being said, you know, we're doing driver changes in 15, 16 seconds, just like the rest of them. So it takes a lot of practice, a lot of hard work. But that's what I love about the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship is no stones left unturned. If there's pace or performance, you're going to exploit it, and that comes all the way down to getting in and out of the car in a driver change. So it's been a lot of fun so far.
Has Tom ever ventured to, hey, this lap I'm going to find out what Robert goes through? Has he done a lap with the hand controls just to see what you go through as a driver?
So Tommy Milner actually drove my hand control system before I did. He was the driver that did the inaugural shakedown of the car, because obviously from a safety perspective, General Motors and Bosch wanted a able-bodied driver to drive the system first in case there were complications. That way the able-bodied brake was always active and they could still slow down the car safely.
Right.
So Tommy got the first taste of it, and I was just watching on the sidelines as he was driving my stuff, and I was just constantly like asking questions like, so what's it like? You know, 'cause I hadn't even tried it yet.
Yeah.
And, you know, he's obviously a super talented driver. But then once we got it homologated and into the race car, I'm actually the only person that's allowed to use it. So my teammate, Alec Udell, sorry, when he's in the car, he's actually not allowed to touch it. Right. So it's kind of this, thing that lives there all the time. And I think they always want to give it a shot, but IMSA has some strong allocations because the way sports cars work with homologating the braking and everything to keep similarities, the hand control system's homologated to the car that I drive, but only while I'm driving it.
Right.
So because I'm not doing the endurance series, for example, DXDT Racing has to take my hand control system and my Bosch electronic braking modules out of their Corvette Z06 GT3R and then put it all back in for the sprint schedule races that I'm doing. So it's definitely some added steps, but I think just for keeping everything equal and fair, you know, I would love my teammates to give it a shot just so they could see what I'm going through, and I think they'd probably gain a kind of a different appreciation or even a different understanding of if I'm talking about, if it's a left-hand corner or a right-hand corner, I'm having to use different hands to do different things.
Mm-hmm.
And I think sometimes no one really understands that until they experience it themselves. And also if the steering wheel's upside down or something, like your brake and throttle and stuff are all in different spots, and you have to almost think backwards while you're trying to troubleshoot what's going on. So it takes some time to get used to, for sure, but it's a very well engineered and a very well designed system by Bosch.
When I look at the cockpit of your Corvette and see all the different screens and all the different electronics that you've got in front of you, my mind is totally boggled. If there isn't enough cool stuff in the Corvette at the factory, add in all the stuff that Bosch has put in there. Back in your IndyCar days, you had a real high-tech steering wheel. They always do. They get the push to pass. They get all this stuff. What's it like compared to your IndyCar steering wheel? And I did pick up on one thing where the tech said Robert can choose the mapping of his choice based on the conditions that day. It leaves you with options. Are you a tinkerer? Do you like playing around with the different mapping? Or when you get it set for today, that's it?
So with my braking system, I basically just set it and forget it. I think coming off of obviously growing up with hydraulic brakes and racing professionally for so many years, which is a normal braking system using my legs, you don't have the ability to tune the braking and feeling and braking sensations that you have. And
no.
For me, I'm constantly trying to learn the Corvette and learn the car better and better. And I feel like having as many controlled environments as possible allows you to get the most out of the race car as well. So with each weekend, I'll kind of call it tune in the amount of physical effort that I feel like I need with one of the rotary switches that I have for my Bosch electronic braking system. And all that's doing is basically providing the amount of assistance that I get from the electronics to stop the car.
Right.
And from there, I just keep it the same. And then in terms of fidgeting, I'm a driver that's trying to get the most out of a race car. So in that Corvette Z06 GT3R, you have traction control, 2 different traction controls. You have ABS. You have all sorts of stuff up on the steering wheel that you're constantly tinkering with, trying to get the most performance from the car as possible.
How did Long Beach go? That was race number 1, test number 1 for Robert Wickens. How did it go? I haven't got the results up here.
The end result was obviously not what we wanted. We had some contact in the race, and we ended up finishing, I think, 14th or something. But the weekend itself, I think, you could argue it was a success. Going into Long Beach, first race with the Corvette, first race in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship, probably one of the more difficult ones you could do with hand controls, given the nature of the track. No runoffs, walls everywhere, and obviously the famous hairpin from my aspect of trying to control throttle and brake with such a tight corner. And it handled it perfectly. We had a lot of teething in first practice. It was kind of a shock, to be honest. But then we just were calculated in between first and second practice, and I actually went P1 overall in second practice ahead of qualifying, and we thought, hey,
we're there.
We're in this, right?
Yeah.
Then we qualified 8th, and then we were running up in 4th when we had contact, and unfortunately had to make an extra pit stop, and that threw us to the back of the field. But it was an amazing debut. Would I have wanted to finish the race higher up, obviously, but
sure.
It was as a proof of concept. I think we proved that we can be competitive, and then we took that same competitive nature into Laguna Seca at the next one in May, and then that's been it so far. So I haven't driven the Corvette since May, and I'm itching to get back, man. It's been a long time. DXCT has been doing a great job. They were nearly on the podium at the 6 hour at the Glen a couple weeks ago, if it wasn't for a failure late in the race that prevented them from doing it. So we're doing all the right things. It's just the team needs some luck on their side, and hopefully we can get that this weekend.
If you're just tuned into Racetime Radio, welcome aboard. We're with Robert Wickens heading for CTMP July the 11th through the 13th. It's going to be huge. WeatherTech Series coming in for their yearly stop, and this one's going to be a barn burner and more special because we got Robert in the 36 Corvette. It's going to be right off the hook. When we get to that weekend, Robert, qualifying versus practice, everything else. Is a track position huge in the GT3 class?
I mean, I think track position is always important, but with it being a 2-hour, 40-minute long race, there's a few pit stops in there. There's a lot of strategy options. And I think that the beauty of the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship is it's a little spontaneous, right? It's not necessarily a cookie cutter strategy at any point. You can go off strategy and make a lot of things happen. Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, it's so fast, it's so flowing. And with modern race cars, with them relying so much more on aerodynamics compared to like in years past, it's always a little problematic. But honestly, the track's so cool that even if you're the following car or what, like it's so easy to make a mistake around there that there's always opportunities. And I think that's the cool thing about the Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. Obviously, it's a multi-class event. Mm-hmm. So the LMP2 cars are going to be the headline class at CTMP. So you're going to have to be dealing with faster prototypes passing you and trying to find your place there. I'd be lying if I said that track position isn't important. Everyone wants to qualify first and win the race. So
right.
I think there's going to be a mixed focus because even if you don't qualify at the front, you can still make a lot happen.
Yeah, and you're going to make it happen quick. That's so cool. This is going to be such an extraordinary weekend. Robert, final question for you, and we genuinely appreciate your time here on Race Time Radio. Where is the pot of gold? Your mind works different than probably a lot of us. You are results-based, and you're totally driven. Where is the pot of gold? Is this it? Are you happy where you are and next year go with a full-time deal? Or do you have aspirations to keep on going up that mountain?
Well, I mean, I think you need to take it one step at a time, right? Like right now, I'm only doing a partial season with DXTT Racing and the Corvette. I would love nothing more than to have the opportunity to be a full-time guy next year and do the 24 hours of Daytona, the Sebring 12, Petit Le Mans, 6 hour at the Glen and all the others in between, right? So that's kind of goal number one for me, is to be a full-time guy. Mm-hmm. Hopefully we can challenge for championships. And then, if you can prove that you can win week in, week out and be a reliable source, I'd be lying if I said I didn't want to race or at least test the GTP car, right? Like those things are so cool. But right now I think thinking short term to long term, if I could have a 5-10 year career with Corvette racing in GT3s and GTDs all around the world, I think it's a really cool opportunity. Your
wife Carly has been beside you all the way through. What's she like now with you getting back into a race car and going out racing competitively?
I mean, Carly's been nothing but supportive this entire journey, right? I think she knew that I always wanted to race, and ironically, I feel like sometimes she's more competitive than I am. So I think she gets some enjoyment from our success too, and that's the whole thing. Like we've just been a team from start to finish, and now our teamwork looks a little different with a little boy at home that just turned 3 yesterday.
Yep.
We got twins coming on the way later this year, so it's been it's going to be a bit of craziness in the Wickens household in the future.
You're a bugger for punishment, Mr. Wickens. Yes, you are, but you're full of love and you're full of competitive spirit, and that's what we all love. Coming off of Canada Day weekend, I got a feeling July 11th through the 13th is going to feel a lot like Canada Day with you back in a race car, especially a Corvette.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. Robert, thanks so much for the time. We genuinely appreciate it. Love to get you back on after, too, and we'll talk about the win.
I'd love to be there. Thank you.